speaking of media cover-ups, government, et cetera, we've got, continuing developments out of Ohio that are deeply disturbing. Let's go ahead and put this up on the screen. This is a write-up in the Washington Post. The headline here is "Toxic Air Pollutants in East Palestine could pose long-term risks," researchers say. Using EPA data, Texas A&M scientists found elevated levels of some chemicals at the derailment site, but EPA officials say the levels pose no short-term risks and are likely to dissipate. So basically, the long and short here, and I'll read you a little bit of this article, is the EPA, of course, has been out saying everything's good. No worries, we're all clear. We did the testing. Of course, we found out the water testing was actually, at least most of it, conducted by literally the polluter, the company Norfolk Southern. They paid consultants to do some shoddy, apparently, testing that with tainted samples, et cetera. So, okay, that was the water. But on the air, they said, we're all good. Well, guess what? These researchers at Texas A&M say, not quite. 3 weeks after the toxic train derailment in Ohio, an independent analysis of EPA data found 9 air pollutants at levels that, if they persist, could raise long-term health concerns in and around East Palestine. That analysis, they say, stands in contrast to statements by state and federal regulators that air near the crash site is completely safe, despite residents complaining about rashes, breathing problems, and other health effects. Now, the EPA's response, they say that air quality levels of 79 different chemicals they're monitoring remain below levels of concern for short-term exposure, and that current concentrations are likely to dissipate. So that is their response. But they say the data only adds to questions and concerns that, of course, have been weighing on residents. Texas A&M researchers found elevated levels of chemicals known to trigger eye and lung irritation, headaches, and other symptoms, as well as some that are known or suspected to cause cancer, which, of course, is the nightmare scenario for these individuals. And they've been so gaslit, Saagar. Any number of reporters, including our own, our friends over at Status Quo, have been on the ground where people are saying nauseous, vomiting, skin rashes, eye irritation, having trouble breathing, all of these things. And meanwhile, the government, no, it's fine, you're fine, no problem, everything's good, the air is clear, etc. This gives you some inkling that they have been, at best, dramatically downplaying the impact of what is going on here.
What I don't really get is they always include these caveats. Experts say it's not cause for immediate concern. It highlights uncertainties. Well, look, if it's uncertainty, what's the worst case? That people get cancer. What's the best case? People don't. Why would you bet on the best case scenario?
Yeah.
Why would you operate under that? And the continuing, the more that you read about it, and you're thinking about many of these people talking about elevated of toxic chemicals in the air, in the water supply, and around the area now that we have no idea how long it will dissipate. They say, oh, it'll dissipate after some time. Well, when? Are we talking about years from now? Are we talking about months from now? Do they need relocation in the interim? Should they go home? Should they not go at home? And at this point, we really have no reason to believe anything that they say. They downplayed, what was it, the controlled release, the demolition that releases like the mushroom cloud.
Right.
They're like, oh, these animals that are dead. Well, it's actually not that many of them. We know now that that is not true.
Yeah.
We know that the initial water testing and all that's being trusted to the company. This is a total government affair. This is bigger than, honestly, than Katrina in terms of the actual cover-up. I know that got a lot of media attention, but this is like an active corporate cover-up in conjunction with U.S. government officials to mislead the media as to what is happening, and they just want to move away from it.
Yeah.
This might be the biggest failure in their history, in modern history.
Yeah,
Really,
with Katrina, obviously, a lot of people died. And,
there's a photo
regional
with
devastation. There was, I don't want to make that direct comparison, but there's no doubt about it that, the cover-up here is so consistent with the playbook that is run every single time. I just keep thinking about that dude we saw on TikTok.
Yeah.
It was like, I get really obsessed with these industrial accidents, and it is the same exact playbook and same timeline every time. The corporation wants to downplay. They want to say everything is fine. And then we find out, oh, guess what? They're funding the tests, and they're using these testing consultants who have been caught in the past cooking the books and screwing with the data. So we know that happened. But those tests come out. The politicians, they also mostly want to downplay what's going on. Everybody except for the literal local mayor. But the Republican governor, Pete and Biden, all of them want to downplay it. And so they're, oh, yeah, the tests are fine. It's all good. Don't worry about it. So they are parroting the corporate line. And then the media also, mostly corporate media, obviously, parrots the corporate line as well. So that's how you end up with this situation where people are like, I am sick. I have symptoms. There is something going on here. It's obviously not all clear. And yet they're being gaslit and told over and over again, no, everything is fine. And here's another example of this. Let's go ahead and put this up on the screen. So Saagar just alluded to this. The original estimate of the number of animals that died in this 5-mile area was 3,500. Well, now that estimate has risen to 43,700. I'm not good at math, but that's a lot more than 3,500. Now, this is predominantly fish and other aquatic animals that they're looking at here. What they say is that when the Ohio Department of Natural Resources officials first responded, they were told it was too dangerous to actually get in the water and do a full analysis without having specialized gear. So they kind of worked with what they could, and that's how they came up with this this initial low estimate. And now that they've been able to do a fuller sample, they can see that there is vastly more animal death here than initially estimated. And as I said, in now this 7.5-mile area that was impacted by the train derailment, they're saying there were 43,700 animals. You know, there's another story that's unfolding here now, because as the cleanup continues, well, they've got to take that toxic waste and all that, you know, bled into the soil in this area. They have to do something with that. So they were initially transporting it to sites in Michigan and sites in Texas. And now the, you know, Democratic governor of Michigan and the Republican governor of Texas were like, hold the phone. What is going on here? We've got some major questions. So just this morning, I read that they've changed course, and now they are disposing of that waste in 2 sites in Ohio, one of which I happen to know because I used to live there, is actually literally in the same county. It's in Columbiana County, just 15 miles down the road. So they don't want to ship it, you know, to Michigan or Texas. They're going to keep it right here in this community and dispose of it in a site that's just 15 miles away. I have to think that people are not too happy about that either.
I was going to say, well, what is the reasoning behind putting it in the same county, that it's already infected?
There's a toxic, and this gets to, like, I talk about this some in my monologue. This region has been so shit on for so many years. So there's a toxic waste incinerator in East Liverpool, Ohio, located, by the way, by a school. There was local opposition to this thing, but anyway, they put it in. So this is a region that, you know, totally devastated by deindustrialization, epidemic of opioid addiction and overdose, all of that, ground zero for that. So this is a place that has just been, like, used and abused for quite a while now. So no surprise that something like a toxic waste incinerator would be located in the same community.
Geez. I mean, yeah, and it's very telling, I think, that nobody else wants the waste. You know, whenever these other states, especially one whose own researchers are like, this is full of toxicity and may have long-term health effects, are like, we don't want our hands on any of this. I don't even know what to say now at this point. And, you know, what we're about to talk about is that these people continue to just be left behind by the federal government, almost completely ignored, to the extent media is even covering it. They're dragged kicking and screaming because of intense public interest, but not a lot of scrutiny yet, at least on the company itself and on the government officials, not even close to the level of scrutiny on President Biden and on Secretary Buttigieg.
Yeah, well, and really importantly, there was covered a Media Matters analysis of all the cable news coverage. And at that point, at least, only 3% of all the segments that had been done on this talked about the political corruption that led up to this. And we now have indications from the NTSB report that has now come out. This was completely preventable. It was preventable with one thing that would have been incredibly beneficial is the modern braking system that David Sirota has been reporting on over at The Lever, that ultimately, you know, under the Obama administration, they tried to make this braking system widespread. Industry got involved, and they really trimmed the sails of what the initial safety regs were going to be under the Obama administration. Then under the Trump administration, they rolled that back even further. So that ends up being really crucial and really key, because there was, I think, like a wheel bearing or something like that, axle, something like that, that was catching fire that we saw on the video, and that does end up turns out to be what the key problem was here. But they actually caught it before it derailed. They tried to stop the train, but because they have frickin' Civil War era braking system on this train, they're unable to stop it, and that's how you end up with the derailment. So political corruption that we've been talking about, that the media has largely ignored, ends up being the key story here. Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Saagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.